The Great Calamities that Befallen on the Muslim World. Dear comrades, my name is Ashok Raj. This is my pen name. Here we are going to discuss in very brief the great calamities that had befallen on the Muslim world, the causes of Muslim apathy, and the civilizational decline of the Muslim world. This lecture is the second part in the series titled Non-Existent Leadership of Indian Muslims. No leadership among Indian Muslims emerged after India's independence from British rule in 1948. Let us narrate the great calamities that had befallen on the Muslim world. The first calamity, genocide of the Muslims in Spain. A very able military, General Tariq bin Ziyad conquered Spain in 711 AD. Muslim rule in Spain lasted about 750 years. Finally, Christians defeated Muslims and started massacring the Muslims and Jews of Spain. A time came when the Christians expelled all the Muslim Moors from Spain. The last remaining Muslims left Spain in 1492 AD. We should remember the Spanish Muslims were known as Moors. When we take a view of the Muslim Spain, we find Spain had got divided into 6 to 8 small kingdoms, with the exception of 2 kingdoms which were larger in size. These Muslim kingdoms used to wage wars against one another quite often. Those of the few Christian kingdoms which remained safe and intact from Muslim invasion were located in the northern mountainous region of Spain. These Christian states used to carry out military attacks time to time against these Muslim states. Initially, these Muslim Moors states were able to quell these attacks successfully. Muslims got worried only when these attacks' frequency and intensity increased. The Muslims were good at fighting wars at plains and not in high mountainous regions, and the Muslim Moors were inexperienced to lay siege to forts and cut off enemy supply lines. The Muslims lacked expertise and patience, which was necessary in fighting such wars. Therefore, these Muslim kingdoms got terrified and they got together and they decided to seek help from North African Muslim Berber kingdom. The kingdom was a large kingdom and had the kind of military might that was needed to defeat the Christian powers. At last, the sought after help arrived from North Africa. The North African Berber army was able to quell the Christian military aggression and was also able to cause a good deal of damage to the Christian strength. The Christians went back and enclosed themselves in their fortresses. After having dealt with Christians, the Berbers turned against Muslim Moors and they looted and plundered Muslim kingdoms. They returned back to North Africa with the looted wealth and by leaving the Moors at the mercy of the Christians. Had Muslims established a pious Khilafat, the Khilafat wouldn't have treated Muslims badly as Berbers had done. Neither the Khilafat would have tolerated discord and opportunism among Muslims. The Khilafat would have considered its religious obligation to protect Muslim territories, Muslim lives, and honor. It wouldn't have weighed everything in the scale of profit and loss. The main causes of Muslim Spain's fall. Cause number 1. Internal conflicts, strifes and court coups. Lack of better trained soldiers and giving military training to civilians to prepare them as military in reserve for emergency as the Christians had done. Cause number 3. Last but not least, the Muslims of that age as of today's lacked farsightedness. The second calamity. Crusades. The Christian holy wars. The Crusades began in 1096 AD and ended in 1192 AD. At behest of Pope Urban II, the combined armies of Western European countries had invaded and occupied Palestine and Syria. Although there were many crusades, but the last 3 crusades are important. Nuruddin the Zengid, Emir of Damascus and Aleppo, had defeated crusades in the 2 wars. A great politician and a great military general, Salahuddin Ayyubi, who was the disciple of Nuruddin, defeated decisively the crusades in the 3rd major war. The third calamity, the Mongol attacks, pillage, and the destruction of Muslim lands. The Mongols were a pagan, wolf-worshipping martial tribes who dwelled in the semi-desert of Gobi. Located on the northeastern steppes, the Mongol tribes used to fight fierce wars among themselves. In time, their most able leader Genghis Khan united them under his leadership, and thus they first invaded and occupied China. Then they started out first attacking their immediate neighboring Muslim countries and then spreading out and attacking other Muslim countries far and wide. The Mongols fell on Muslims like a scourge of God, massacring Muslims in massive numbers. looting, plundering, and destroying their cities and towns. A time came when Mongol invasion and incursions into Muslim lands was successfully checked by Mamelukes of Egypt and Turkey, and also then by the Indian Muslim king Sultan Alauddin Khilji. When Mongol ferocity subsided, then some level of peace set in, and Mongols started tolerating and patronizing all religions such as Sunni Islam, Shiaism, Christianity, and Buddhism. In this scenario, Islam silently made deep inroads in Mongol nobility and common populace as well. Finally, the last straw fell and it proved tipping point when in 1295 AD a famous Buddhist, Muhammad Ghazan, reverted to Islam and professed Islam publicly. First the notables, then the common Mongols started accepting Islam in droves. Dear audience, let us take a brief pause for our appeal. Please subscribe to our channel by pressing the bell icon so that you get notification whenever we upload a new video. The fourth calamity, decline and fall of Mughal Empire. The Mughal Emperor Babur had founded the empire in 1526 AD, and this empire was defeated and ended in 1858 by the British Empire. After the death of Emperor Aurangzeb, the empire started declining and disintegrating fast. The great Islamic thinker of 20th century, Abul Maududi, writes in one of his works, even though Allah had bestowed upon Aurangzeb a sound knowledge of Islam and a long life, nevertheless he did not pave the way for Islamic Khilafat by utilizing these blessings of Allah. The love for his progeny overcame him over the love for Islam and over the safety and security of the Muslim millet and its future in India. He had chosen his heir during his lifetime. After Aurangzeb's death, some 12 kings among his progeny rose to power, but none could last for long. In a span of 50 years' time after his death, some 12 kings were throned and dethroned one after the other. They all proved incapable and unfit for the Mughal throne. After seeing the empire's weaknesses, the nobles and the governors appointed to govern various provinces started declaring rebellion and their independence from the empire. The fifth calamity, the decline and dismemberment of Ottoman Empire, also known by Muslims Khilafat Usmaniya or Uthmaniya. This empire was established in 1299 AD and was ended and broken up into small pieces by the British Empire and the Allies in 1923 AD. The demise of the Ottoman Empire sent shockwaves throughout the Muslim world. The Muslim Ummah mourns the traumatic event even to this day. It's because Ottoman Empire enjoyed a symbolic status of Muslim unity, solidarity, and the power of Muslim world Ummah. Ottoman Empire stretched over a vast area of 470,000 square miles during its heyday. The empire at one time was very powerful militarily. It had defeated Russia and Europe in various major wars. There are several reasons for its decline. It is not possible to cover them all. Nonetheless, we shall cover a few major ones in our final analysis. The sixth calamity, the defeat of Sirajuddaulah, the king of Bengal, India. Sirajuddaulah was born in 1733 AD and died in 1757 AD. Bengal during Sirajuddaullah's reign was a very wealthy and militarily and politically a powerful state. Siraj was a young, inexperienced, incapable, and a coward ruler. Historical evidences bear testimony to these facts. Before proceeding further, we would like to emphasize here that the purpose of research into history is to gain deep insight to the causes of success and failure of nations and civilizations. Siraj's first mistake was his overconfidence and underestimation of his enemies' powers and his enemies' ambition. His second mistake was his lack of strategic thinking and planning. His third mistake was his over-reliance and trust on a particular military general and not building an effective spy network to keep a strict eye on high office holders in whose hands lay the fate of his kingdom. Mir Jafar, his trusted and heavily relied upon military general, was engaged in secret talks and negotiations with the British, but Siraj was totally unaware of it. His fourth mistake was that when he finally became aware of the betrayal of his military general Mir Jafar in the middle of the major and final war with the British, and when another military general, second in command, offered his services to secure the victory, Siraj refused the offer and continued trusting Mir Jafar. That was the greatest blunder. The British killed Sirajuddaulah mercilessly and mutilated his body. Even his sons were not spared, they too were put to death. The seventh calamity, the defeat of Tipu Sultan, the king of Mysore, India. Tipu Sultan was born in 1750 AD and died in 1799 AD, fighting in the battlefield fighting the British. Tipu's army got defeated by the betrayal of his military general Mir Sadiq and at the hands of the combined military forces of British and the Nizam of Hyderabad, India. The case of Tipu's defeat is an example of utter foolishness of Tipu Sultan and his leniency and complacency toward the aims and agenda of the British Empire. Please take note, Siraj died in 1757 AD and Tipu attains martyrdom in 1799 AD. This shows that Tipu had 42 years to learn from Siraj's mistakes and experience, yet he failed to learn. Tipu could have devised an effective strategy by commissioning a study into the reasons of Sirajuddaullah's failures. But instead, Tipu committed the same mistakes as Siraj had done. Tipu was courageous, brilliant, and a visionary leader. He was much ahead of his times, yet he made the same mistakes as Siraj had done. This goes to suggest that Muslims do not want to study history, neither they want to learn lessons from history. They want to remain lethargic and want to remain oblivious to their past mistakes and to the challenges and the dangers that lay ahead in the future. Our analysis of the Muslim apathy and the great calamities. Abul Maududi, the great Islamic thinker of the 20th century, has given the major reasons of Muslim civilizational decline are as follows. After the demise of Khilafat Rashida, that is the rightly guided Khilafah of the four pious Imams such as Abu Bakr Siddiq, Umar Farooq, Uthman Ghani and Ali, monarchy form of government took roots all across the Muslim world. With this dictatorial and hierarchical order, gradually intellectual and moral decline set in. In the long run, over a course of many centuries. The second cause of Muslim civilizational decline was after the demise of Khilafat Rashida, Muslim Ummah's lack of revolutionary spirit and Ummah's failure to formulate a philosophy of revolution and liberation. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his companions were revolutionary and they were imbued with revolutionary spirit. But later generations of Muslims after Khilafat Rashida succumbed to the passive and pacifist philosophy of Sufism, which maintains every Muslim should be concerned about his own spiritual purification at the cost of negligence to eradicate social evils such as injustice, oppression, and exploitation of the masses by the rich and the powerful. Third cause, the establishment of Khilafah unifying the Muslim territories and the establishment of true justice did not find a place on Ummah's agenda. The fourth cause, Muslim Ummah's failure to be vigilant and to keep an eye on the development and the threats emerging from the non-Muslim world. The fifth cause, the Muslim Ummah's failure of not forming study groups and think tanks to take into consideration all matters and to achieve farsightedness. The sixth cause, their failure to be flexible and initiate for fast development and military innovations in the face of enemies' new war technology and innovative war tactics. The seventh cause, Muslim Ummah's lack of interest to establish universities and to establish research institutions in the field of natural sciences and technology, also in the field of social sciences and humanities. Let us consider Ottoman Empire's decline and disintegration as a case in point to understand the malady that is besetting the global Muslim Ummah. Ottoman Empire, also known as Khilafat Uthmaniyya, was not a puritanical Khilafah on the lines of Khilafat Rashida. Rather, it was a tyrannical empire, corrupt to the core. The following are the brief reasons for its decline. The empire was situated at the vestibule of Europe, yet it failed to learn from Europe's progress in science and technology. It neglected these vital areas of research and development. It failed to curb the ever-growing deep and wide corruption. It was heavily an agrarian economy. It failed to achieve industrialization. The expansion of the army and the high military costs put an unbearable burden on peasantry and the farmer.